Now, Trisha, you've done a lot of cosplay, I can mention.
Yeah.
We're just talking about cosplay. Let's take a look at some of the stuff you've done here.
Oh my gosh.
Is this
cool.
you?
That is me.
I could not tell. It looks like Wonder Woman.
Thanks, man.
Do you have
Fooled us.
a clever disguise that has worked on me?
I don't
my
think Wonder Woman
goodness.
had that thing where she just put on like a headband and people were like, I don't recognize this lady anymore.
That's
Yeah,
actually
I don't think that happened. This is actually, it's funny, a lot of the cosplays I do, people say that they don't recognize me, but this
Right.
is one where people did because I got to use my real hair.
Aw. So you've done plenty of this. Like, I mean, you sometimes do this for a living. Like people like pay you to like dress up.
That's just starting for me. So
Really?
I started cosplaying just because it's fun.
Yeah.
So this is, I don't know, I've been going to San Diego Comic-Con was probably my first big convention, and that was, gosh, over 10 years ago that I started going because I just like to go, like
Sure.
it's fun for me.
Yeah.
And so I would go and I would dress up and, you know, try to make the costumes the best I can, but I'm not a costumer. So it was just me going and having fun, and only recently through my tech and video game coverage have companies found me and said, hey, we actually want to like pay you for this. And then I'm like, really?
I mean, that also wasn't a thing that was people were doing 10 years
Right.
ago. You know, it was like maybe
Yeah.
they'd make a
Well,
costume themselves and pay someone to wear it, but like.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's like the kind of the fan culture has really evolved to a point that it's
It's crazy,
awesome.
and it's really fun because
Yeah.
every build you do, you challenge yourself to try something new. Like this build that's up right now, the Wonder Woman build, I had help with this because I had never worked with leather before,
Right.
and I was terrified.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, I was terrified, so I had help with this one. But I mean, you can see that this costume is not perfect, but I was pretty
But it's
proud
great,
of
but
it.
you're owning it,
You're
you
having
know?
fun.
Yeah.
Right down to the boots and
So
everything.
like I sprayed my boots with not leather paint. Now I know there's a thing called leather paint. I spray painted them and they flaked off all
Oh, no.
day.
So a
Like,
lot of
I
this-
learned a lesson.
A lot of this was sort of like the trial and error. You said you weren't big, you weren't like a pro at costuming or anything like that, but
No.
you just got into it and started doing it, right? Yeah. And now you're like you're part making them, you're part inheriting some of them, but you're like I said, you're owning it. Like this looks awesome. This is a great shoot
So
here.
this was an experiment in altering a costume.
Got it.
So as what some people do, there's a closet cosplay is what they call it when people take things that you can normally find at a store or your closet and then alter it to become
Yes.
a
Kit bashing,
cosplay.
basically.
So this was like a real crappy, horribly fitting Halloween costume that we replaced the Robin patch on so that it was accurate. We altered the crap out of it so that it actually fit me nice instead of looking like a gross bag. But actually, the guy in the background who's the Batman cosplayer,
Yeah.
he made that from scratch, and that is a badass cosplay.
That's insane.
That's great. It was inspirational to shoot
Cool.
that.
What about this?
That was a closet cosplay. So I took a bunch of stuff from my closet and things I could pick up and purchase at a store and altered the crap out of it. So like the armor that's on it, that was a handbag, like an 80s handbag that I found at a Goodwill and chopped up.
Oh, wow.
And then used fabric tape and sewed it, like hand stitched
that's so
it
cool.
to make it into armor pieces, both on the glove, on the elbow, on the boots. You can't see the boots in those pictures, but I worked really hard on the boots too. And I actually have a video on my channel of how I made that one.
So-
I try to do videos that are like, you can do this too. It's
Yeah.
not as
Yeah, I was
hard
gonna
as
say,
you
I think this is like really inspiring for people who look at this and they go, this is really daunting. How do I get into this? And you're like, well, you probably have 3/4 of a costume in your closet right now.
You totally do. This one, my Daenerys, back when she was the Khaleesi, this was the first one I made on my own. So I purposefully chose it because the edges aren't like perfect, the
Right.
seams aren't great, so I could be sloppy with it and it still
Yeah.
looks appropriate.
That's really cool. So you're cutting it and you're tearing it and you're like, it doesn't matter. Like,
yeah,
I'm not-
like
I'm-
if this isn't perfectly symmetrical, it's totally fine.
that is awesome.
That's cool.
That is so cool.
Yeah, that was just a fun day.
That's just a wig.
That
So-
was actually I bought that wig because I was going to do a Jessica Rabbit that year,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't figure out the boob physics.
So
And so
we
that didn't happen. So I just wore a cute Batman dress and some green eyeshadow and said it was like a poison ivy modern
But that's great though.
day.
So that's like that's kind of like why we threw this in here, right? Because it's like cosplay doesn't necessarily have to mean that you're going as an identifiable character. You can kind of just like throw some cool stuff together and be better than just the average person who walks in there just in a hoodie and jeans. You
It's
know?
not even better. It's just fun for you.
It's better.
You know, like go and have fun for you. If there's a character you really like, even if you look at it and you're like, oh, that costume is
Yeah.
very scary and intimidating, do it the best you can with what you have and go out and have fun. And like I said, the next time you do a build, you'll try something new, whether it's I'm working with leather for the first time, or this is the first time I have to do my own grommets, or you know, whatever it is, or like this one that's behind us. That was a terrifying build for me because I made all the jewelry too, and that was the first time I had
wow,
ever
man.
made jewelry.
So how are
And,
you doing
know,
that? Just like with wire cutters and everything?
Yeah, I went to the craft store and like kind of researched how people do it and got pliers and
Yeah.
So
Look
what's
online.
so what's next? Like what's your dream cosplay you really want to tackle
Oh,
next?
Jessica Rabbit is my dream one. I don't know that I'll ever actually be able to do it because I don't want to do clear straps.
Right.
So I want to do the strapless and I want to do the low back, and I don't know if being a real person and not a cartoon, if that's physically possible. But I'm going to keep trying, and and hopefully someday I'll get there.
Yeah, I think a lot of her costume is built on the fact that like her waist doesn't really exist. It's just like a coin in the middle of her body that everything comes
Well,
out with
and I've made it that it's hard in the front, like you make it so it's like an armor plate in the front to try to get it to stand up like that. But every time I did it, the whole front still goes, it just falls forward.
Good Lord.
That's awesome.
I need to figure it out. It'll happen someday.
Let us know when you nail it, and bring it to the show, and we'll show it off and show people how it's done. Because I think a lot of people in the world probably want to know how to do that. And have no idea where to start.
But I mean, end of the day, like there's so many resources online for people who want to figure out how to do cosplay.
Yeah,
Like,
there's great how-to videos on YouTube. You can easily find stuff, and usually if you're in a major city, or sometimes even in the smaller cities, there'll be places where you can rent a sewing machine for a few hours. So even if you don't have one, like there's resources that you can go out there and use.
That's awesome.
Cool.